July 11, 1943. Gela, Sicily. 6:40 a.m. The beach is already burning. Salt water still clings to American boots as artillery screams down from the hills. Sand erupts in black fountains. Smoke rolls low, thick enough to taste cordite, diesel, fear. Somewhere beyond the dunes, German and Italian guns rake the shoreline, cutting into men who landed only minutes ago. You can hear it before you see it. Shouting, running, the panicked clatter of rifles dropped in the surf. A group of U.S. infantry breaks from cover and starts moving backward, not marching, not withdrawing, running. Faces white, eyes wild, some bleeding, some just scared. They aren't charging the enemy, they're fleeing it. And standing between them and the sea is a man in polished helmet and ivory-handled revolvers. General George S. Patton. He doesn't flinch as shells crash nearby. He doesn't duck. He steps forward into the chaos, boots sinking into the sand, jaw clenched, eyes burning under his helmet brim. The first soldier almost collides with him. Patton grabs him by the webbing. "Where the hell are you going, soldier?" The man stammers. Machine guns, tanks, too heavy. More men flood in behind him. And then Patton does something no general is supposed to do. He draws his pistol, not at the enemy, at his own men. The barrel levels with their chests. "Anyone who retreats from this line," Patton roars, voice slicing through artillery thunder, "I will personally shoot." For a moment, the battlefield freezes. The enemy fires, the surf crashes, smoke drifts. But the Americans stop, because now death waits on both sides. And Patton has just made the choice for them. Only hours earlier, Sicily had seemed almost calm. Operation Husky, the Allied invasion of Hitler's fortress, Europe from the south, was supposed to be quick, clean, a show of force that would break Italy and open the Mediterranean. But war never follows paper plans. When American forces landed at Gela before dawn, they walked into confusion. German panzer divisions moved faster than expected. Italian artillery held the hills. Luftwaffe bombers pounded the beaches. Radios failed. Officers went down. The line bent. Then it cracked. Young soldiers, many in combat for the first time, saw tanks where they expected scattered resistance. They heard screams instead of orders, units mixed. Command dissolved into instinct. And instinct says one thing under fire: survive. So they ran, not cowardly men, not traitors. Just human beings meeting modern war for the first time. But Patton had not crossed an ocean to watch men dissolve into panic. He arrived on Sicily furious. Furious at delays, furious at hesitation, furious at the idea that Americans might look weak in their first great European assault. Patton believed something few commanders dared say aloud: a soldier's courage is contagious. So is fear. If one man runs, 10 follow. If 10 run, 100 break. And once an army starts running, it does not stop. So Patton went where generals rarely went, the front line itself. He stormed ashore in a command vehicle, revolvers strapped low, helmet shining under the sun, boots already dusted with sand. Officers remember how he looked less like a bureaucrat and more like something ancient. A Roman centurion walking into gunfire. As shells hit close, Patton didn't seek cover. He sought men. He found them crawling backward through dunes, eyes wide, breath ragged. He kicked one to his feet. "Get up." Another tried to pass. Patton blocked him. Then he raised his pistol. Witnesses later said his voice cut through artillery like a blade. "You're going forward, not back. The enemy is that way. And if you move another step toward the beach, I'll kill you myself." Some thought he was bluffing. Patton wasn't. He had studied history obsessively, Caesar, Napoleon, Alexander. He believed discipline under fire mattered more than comfort, more than kindness, sometimes more than life itself. In Patton's mind, one executed deserter could save 1,000 living soldiers, because panic spreads faster than bullets. One trembling man becomes a collapsing front, and Gela was already trembling. The soldiers stared at him. Dust-covered boys from Kansas, Texas, New York. Men who had trained for months but never seen tanks rolling straight toward them. Their choice was brutal: run and die by Patton's hand, or turn and face German guns. Patton holstered nothing. He kept the pistol aimed. Then he shouted again, "Form a line." His staff officers followed his lead, grabbing men, shoving them into position. Radios crackled. Artillery observers crawled forward again. Machine gunners planted their bipods in the sand. Slowly, painfully, the chaos reshaped into order. Men who had been fleeing now knelt. Men who had been shaking now aimed. And Patton stood behind them like an iron wall. Another shell burst nearby. Sand sprayed his helmet. He didn't blink. Instead, he walked behind the line, pointing forward with his revolver. "Fire! Fire again! Keep firing!" The Americans obeyed. At first, weak bursts, then sustained, then confident. German tanks crested the hills, and instead of empty beaches, they met gunfire. Later that day, Patton repeated the same threat again and again along the coast. At Gela, at Licata, at Scogliti. Everywhere panic tried to grow, Patton crushed it with presence and fear. Officers whispered that Patton had gone mad. But something strange happened. The retreat stopped. The beaches held. The enemy advance slowed. And American troops, men who hours earlier had been running for the sea, began pushing inland. Not because they suddenly felt brave, but because they felt watched. Because Patton made them believe retreat was no longer an option. Forward was the only direction left alive. That night, as fires burned along Sicily's coast, Patton finally allowed himself to breathe. He had crossed a line, a dangerous one. Threatening your own men with death is not in any training manual. But Patton believed something terrifyingly simple. War is not won by comfort, it's won by pressure. And pressure breaks either the enemy or your own army first. But what no one yet realized was this: Patton's pistol at Gela was only the beginning, because the same iron discipline that saved Sicily would soon nearly destroy Patton himself. And the next time he lost control, it wouldn't be on a beach. It would be in a hospital tent, with a wounded soldier, and the entire world watching. The sun sinks over Sicily like a dying flare. By evening, the beaches that had been chaos that morning now lie littered with wrecked vehicles, burned landing craft, and the quiet shapes of men who will never leave the sand. Smoke curls upward in slow, exhausted spirals. Somewhere inland, artillery still mutters like distant thunder. Patton stands on a rise overlooking Gela, binoculars pressed to his eyes. He watches his line, not the enemy. His own soldiers. Men dig foxholes with shaking hands. Medics move between bodies. Officers shout orders that finally sound organized instead of desperate. The army is no longer running. It's breathing again. Behind Patton, his aide, Colonel Hobart Gay, approaches carefully. "Sir, some of the officers are talking." Patton lowers the glasses. "About what?" "They say you crossed a line today." Patton doesn't turn. "Good," he says. Lines exist to be held. But inside, even Patton knows what he did at Gela will follow him. Threatening the enemy is leadership. Threatening your own men is something else entirely. Patton did not invent fear. He studied it. Before the war, he filled notebooks with lessons from ancient generals. He believed morale decided battles before bullets ever did. A unit that believes it will win often does. A unit that doubts collapses faster than any fortress. Patton once wrote, "Battles are won by frightened men who refuse to stay frightened. But fear has to be redirected." At Gela, Patton didn't remove fear. He replaced it. Fear of Germans became fear of Patton, and fear of Patton pushed men forward. Some historians later called it brutal, some called it genius. The soldiers called it unforgettable. Private First Class James O'Neill would later say, "When Patton pulled that pistol, I stopped being scared of dying. I became scared of disappointing him." That's the strange thing about Patton. Men didn't just obey him. They felt judged by him. He carried himself like history was watching. After Sicily, Patton's reputation exploded. The Allies didn't just capture the island, they dominated it. Patton's 7th Army raced faster than expected. He pushed columns day and night, sleeping in short bursts, demanding movement even when supply officers begged for rest. To Patton, momentum was oxygen. Stop moving and the army suffocates. He visited frontline units constantly, sometimes without warning, sometimes under fire, always in his polished helmet and ivory-handled pistols. Soldiers began whispering stories. That Patton once slapped a man's rifle into place, that he cursed generals like privates, that he threatened courts-martial for hesitation, that he expected soldiers to look like warriors, not refugees. He once stopped a convoy because a soldier's helmet strap was loose. "Fasten it," Patton snapped. "Your brain might need protection today." Fear followed him like a shadow. But so did something else. Confidence. Because wherever Patton appeared, the enemy soon disappeared. Yet discipline under Patton came at a price. By 1944, the war had moved north to France. The beaches of Normandy were behind them. Hedgerows replaced sand. Rain replaced heat. The enemy became invisible again, hiding behind green walls and sudden ambushes. The fighting was slower, more exhausting, more personal. And exhaustion does strange things to men. By August, Patton's 3rd Army was racing across France, but casualties mounted. Sleep vanished. Shell shock, what doctors now call combat fatigue, spread quietly through the ranks. Men stopped speaking, hands trembled. Eyes stared too long at nothing, and Patton hated it. He believed in courage as a duty, not a feeling. To Patton, a soldier who admitted fear was surrendering before the enemy ever fired. So when reports came that some men were refusing to fight because of nerves, Patton took it personally. In his mind, the war did not allow room for weakness. Not when thousands depended on every rifle. Not when hesitation could kill entire companies. So Patton did what he always did. He went forward. August 3, 1943, near Nicosia, Sicily. A field hospital tent. The air smells of blood, antiseptic, and canvas baked under the sun. Inside, wounded men lie on cots, groaning softly. Some missing limbs, some bandaged head to toe. Doctors move quickly, sweat rolling down their faces. Patton steps through the flap. His boots echo against wooden planks. The room stiffens instantly. Medics straighten. Nurses pause. Patton removes his gloves slowly, scanning the rows. He isn't here to comfort. He's here to inspect. He stops beside one cot. A young private sits upright, no visible wounds. His helmet rests on his knees. His hands shake. Patton looks down. "What's wrong with you, son?" The private swallows. I guess I can't take it anymore, sir." Patton's eyes narrow. "What's the matter with you?" The soldier whispers, "My nerves." The word hangs in the tent like smoke. Nerves, not shrapnel, not blood, not broken bones, fear. Patton stiffens. Around them, wounded men stop breathing for a moment. Patton steps closer. "You're not wounded?" "No, sir." Patton's jaw tightens. "You're just scared?" The private nods. Patton's face hardens into something dangerous. Something born on beaches like Gela. Something shaped by his belief that fear, if allowed, kills armies faster than bullets ever will. Patton's hand rises. Not to draw his pistol this time, but something else. And the entire tent senses what's about to happen. because Patton is about to cross a line far more dangerous than any beachhead. A line that will follow him for the rest of his life.